Okay, you guys couldn't see that on camera, but once I pressed play, I almost died. I almost tripped over the desk right there. But you did see it. I don't even know if you heard it on camera, but anyway, here we go. All right, so we're moving past just kind of the initial stages of European exploration. So let's recap a little bit. The name of this video is called Who Did It? How'd They Do It? Right? So let's recap. Like I said, trade routes to Asia for Europe were closed because the Ottoman Empire had taken over. So it was really hard to get through a trade, what had previously been the Silk Road and different routes to Asia and India. And Europeans, despite that, were also getting a little greedy, and they really were looking to find gold and spread Christianity and have the glory of being there first. So they were all looking for this trade route to Asia, to a water route to Asia that would be quicker than having to go through the Ottoman Empire or around the Ottoman Empire, right? So we know early on Spain and Portugal were the two big players, the two big countries initially in European exploration. They were the leaders. They were the first ones out the gate. If you look at a map of Europe, it makes sense. They're pretty much right on the edge of the western coast of Europe, so it's easy for them to get in and out very quickly. And they really went south across the Atlantic Ocean. So they kind of came down south, a little bit around Africa, and then started coming across. So they were kind of landing in South America as they were trying to find routes for Asia. And that's important because as they were sailing southern routes and they were taking control of that area, we'll talk about that in a second. A lot more people were able to get involved in sailing because there were a lot of improvements in technologies. It just made it easier to explore. You had improved navigational tools with the compass, the astrolabe, and maps. All of those things got better. Obviously, a compass and astrolabe, you can chart your course a little bit better, follow the stars. Maps just got better as people discovered more lands. Ships got better. They had these caravel sails, which are the triangular sails that you're actually very familiar with. Early on in sailing, they were squares, or rectangles, if you will. These triangle sails, the caravels, made it easier to sail into the wind. So you could catch the wind at a different angle and still proceed forward. Whereas the square sails, you had to always go with the wind, right? You also had better shape of ships, so the ships got a little rounder, the holes got a little bit deeper, made it a little bit faster, a little bit easier to navigate, and they also ended up getting rudders at the end as opposed to having oars. People were, a little bit easier to navigate and steer ships that way. All right, let's talk about two people here real quick. Prince Henry the Navigator, we touched on him early in the first video. He's Portuguese. Remember, that's a big country early on, so he's obviously one of the important people. He wasn't himself an explorer, but he did pay other people to do it. He's a prince, obviously, so he's got some moolah, okay? He did start a school. It's not like an official school, if you will, but they did research for exploration tactics, and they trained explorers. When you think of that school, think these are the guys that were studying astronomy, they were studying navigation, maps, whatever, anything to make exploration more important. So as they kind of came through his school, Prince Henry would send people from Portugal out on the exploration, the voyages around the world. And Portugal really was going around kind of Africa at this point under his kind of supervision. So Christopher Columbus, he was an Italian sailor, but he sailed for Spain, okay, right? That's important because that's the other big country involved in early exploration. He thought the world was way smaller than it really is. Some people estimate that he basically thought the world was half the size that it truly was. So he finally was able to convince King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to pay for his trip to go west to find a quicker water route to Asia, which would obviously benefit Spain because it meant they didn't have to go across land. In 1492, he took him 3 ships and about 80 men and landed in the Caribbean islands. He thought it was Asia. He did not realize that there was an entire continent in between Spain and Asia, known as, now known as North and South America. I guess it's 2 continents. But he landed there and thought it was Asia for quite a long time. He found people there. That's really important because this is kind of the start of the destruction of the people that lived in the Americas, the New World, if you will. Europeans brought over all new types of germs and diseases that the native people didn't have immunities for. So smallpox was huge. You just had all sorts of different diseases that were killing thousands of Native Americans, millions of Native Americans over time. Even such things, just a simple cold, right? If it was a certain strand, it would take out plenty of people in the New World from these European explorers that had settled there. And that wasn't just true of Columbus, that was true of all the explorers, right? So now let's talk about the other countries that join in. England and France start exploring, but they realize because Spain and Portugal did it so early on, they've kind of got a lock on the southern routes of the hemisphere, the southern part of the globe. So France and England, they go north towards modern day Canada and northern North America, right? Northern United States, if you will. John Cabot, he's an Italian explorer sailing for England. right? So he's sailing for England. He lands in Canada in 1497. He thinks it's Asia. He's looking for a trade route to Asia for England. It's not happening because they land in Canada. Cartier, a French explorer, sailed up the St. Lawrence River looking for a route to Asia, lands in Canada. Doesn't work out for them, but they don't find these water routes to Asia, but both countries started claiming land for themselves, just like Spain and Portugal were doing down in Southern America and the Caribbean islands and Central America. So now let's talk about this. Let's set the stage for the next video. We've got lots of European countries and powerful, rich, strong countries with huge military competitions or military strongholds competing for land, resources, money, glory, gold, God. And obviously, when you put all this power in one place, this is only going to lead to more competition, obviously some disagreements, and even war. And we'll touch base on that a little bit as we get going forward.